Gang Territory, Chapter 2. Golfball. Miss Hanger led me into the schoolroom, which was high, with vaulted beams and the musky animal odour of 10 generations of country school children. Miss Hanger guided me by the shoulder. "Good morning, children," chanted Miss Hanger. "Good morning, Miss Hanger," chanted the children in automatic reply. "This is Miss Ufford's class," said Miss Hanger to me. "Say good morning to Miss Ufford." "Good morning, Miss Ufford." "This is our new boy," went on Miss Hanger, "so I want you all to welcome him kindly and show him how we do things here. I'll leave him in your charge, Miss Ufford." Miss Ufford said, "Come in, boy. This is your seat here, next to Molly." She indicated a place at the front, in a double desk, where a dark and very pretty girl was already seated. I hoped she was as pleasant as her appearance indicated. "Hello, Molly," I said as I sat next to her. She seemed pleased to be sharing her desk, for she smiled shyly at me, but said nothing. "No talking in class until I give permission," said Miss Ufford, looking in my direction. But she said it gently, to inform, not to reprimand. "If you want to say something, put up your hand. I'm going to call the roll now." I paid particular attention. My aunt had told me that a certain Winifred King was in my class, and it was her mother who was to give me my midday dinner. But all I knew of Winifred and her mother was their address in the village. I had it in my pocket on a slip of paper. "Mrs. King, number 26, the street." "Winifred King," called Miss Ufford, and I swivelled in my seat to look at the class. "Present," responded a fresh-faced, plumpish girl near the back. She wore an untidy mass of blonde hair and looked a cheerful sort. She noticed my interest and gave me a nod, which told me that she knew about the dinner arrangement. I looked forward to the dinner break, but how to avoid Snailer? "I need 2 volunteers for milk monitor today," said Miss Ufford hesitantly. Nobody put up a hand. It was obviously not a popular job. I didn't know what a milk monitor was, but it might be a way of avoiding an immediate clash with Snailer. At the risk of being taken for a teacher's toady, I put up my hand. Miss Ufford selected a weedy-looking individual from a desk on my left. "Spaulding, you can be the other milk monitor. You know what the procedure is, and I can count on you to show our newcomer the ropes." I caught a sour look of resignation on Spaulding's face as Miss Ufford turned away to rummage in her desk. She pulled out a book to give us an exercise in dictation. The clock on the wall showed 20 past 10 as she called out cheerfully, "Right, the 2 milk monitors can leave now. You've 10 minutes to get everything ready." Then she said mysteriously, "The number is 28. "Yes, miss, 28, repeated Spaulding, and I realized that that was the number of pupils present in the class. He got up, beckoned to me with his head, and moved towards the door. I followed him. He closed the door carefully and silently. "Okay, Golfball, what do we have to do?" His answer surprised me. I would not have thought this gloomy, strangely named Golfball capable of such a flight of dry humour. "What we have to do is our national duty. We administer a government programme for the benefit of present and future generations. See this here table at the classroom door," he went on, saluting it smartly. "We have to go and fetch, from a duty teacher at the service entrance, 28 bottles of milk and 28 straws. We place the bottles on the table. As the pupils come out for mid-morning break at 10:30, we have to see that each one takes a bottle, and we give each one a straw. When they've drunk the milk, we have to make sure that there are 28 empty bottles come back. We have to make sure that the wax paper cap is still on the bottle, and that each one has a straw passing through the hole made for the purpose in the cap. If anyone hands in a bottle what is not completely empty, or without a cap or a straw, we have to take his or her name. When all the bottles are back, we return them to the service entrance. Then we can go back into class." He made a face and shuddered. "I hate milk, and I hate being milk monitor." "I hate milk too," I said. "Can't one refuse?" "No way," he replied decisively. He then recited, as though he had learned it by heart, "We have to be thankful for our free government milk, provided generously at the risk of men's lives, so we can grow up to be strong and healthy." He shuddered convulsively again and made a vomiting noise. "Leastways, that's what Uffy says." "Uffy?" I asked. Golfball looked at me as though I were daft. Then he grinned. "Miss Ufford, Natch," he explained. I nodded my understanding. "Can't you just pour the milk down the drain in the washroom?" "No way," he said again, making an even more disgusting retching sound. "They watch the washrooms, and you're not allowed to take the bottles into the toilet outside either. Better not try it. You'll find yourself staying in after school for extra lessons. Come on, we better get her those bottles, or we'll not be ready when the bell rings." I was interested to discover that the school had a service entrance. "Is it always open?" I asked. "It's unlocked during school hours. We're not to use it except in emergencies, and of course for the coke monitors in the winter. The coke bins are out there." We went to the service area. Just outside was a pile of milk crates and the duty teacher. "Hurry up," she said tetchily. "You're late. Get a move on, or the bell will ring before you're ready." "How many?" 26, I said quickly. Golfball gave a gasp, opened his mouth to speak, but shut it again quickly when he saw me glare at him. The duty teacher wrote 26 in the little book she held in her hand, pushed over 2 crates of 1/3 of a pint bottles, each containing a dozen, placed an additional bottle on top of each crate, added a handful of straws, and said, "Buck up now, it's almost 10:30. We staggered off with our loads, dumped them on the table outside the classroom, and stood behind it waiting for the bell. Golfball gaped at me with a look of apprehensive admiration on his face. "Quick thinking," he remarked. "But if we're found out, we'll be for it. Kept in for a week, I shouldn't wonder." "We'll not be found out, but if we are, I'll take all the blame. I'm new, and I was never very good at figures." At that instant the bell rang, and we readied ourselves behind the table. "I'll hand out the bottles," I said. "You distribute the straws." For the next few minutes we were too busy for any further talk. But then the rush was over, and we had time before the next bell and the empties came back. "Whereabouts do you live, Golfball?" "Down the Adair Road, just before the Waverley Arms." "Is that in the village?" I asked, not yet knowing much of the geography of the area. "No," he laughed. "It's the other way. It's at the edge of town, where the trolley bus terminal is. It's nearly half an hour's—" He broke off, staring horrified down the corridor, his mouth hanging open. Snailer was sauntering towards us, accompanied on either side by his customary bodyguard. "Watch yourself, Golfball," he snarled menacingly. Then he leaned towards me and hissed, "I'm gonna get you, clever-ass new boy." The 3 of them sniggered as they continued on through the porch into the yard. Golfball looked as pale as the milk we had recently handed out. He was trembling slightly. I tried to reassure him. "It's okay, Golfball. Don't worry. I'm the one he's after, not you." "You don't understand," quavered Golfball. "The slug lives only 3 doors down the road from me. He wants to become top dog in the Adair Road gang, and can give me hell. Don't ask me any more questions. I'm not answering." So Snailer's name was Slug. Not directly to his face, I imagined, unless the nickname was short for Slugger, in which case I'd better keep a long way out of his reach. "Are you a member of the Adair Road gang?" I asked. Golfball nodded. "I don't count. I just do what I'm told." "Is the gang a big one?" "It's big. Slim Tim Simmons a member too." Golfball was doubtless giving me the name of one of the Slug's offsiders. Golfball glanced anxiously towards the porch. "No more questions," he muttered between his teeth. "How many members of the gang at this school?" I queried out of the side of my mouth. Golfball hesitated, then held up 5 fingers. He then held up 1 finger and pointed along the corridor towards the girls' washroom. "Only 4 boys then, and amiable Golfball was one of them. The second member of Snailer's bodyguard, no doubt the other. No matter. I now knew that there were only 3 boys with whom I had to reckon. The bell rang, the whistles blew, and the class, with their empty bottles, began to troop back into the classroom. We counted our 26, complete with caps and straws, put them back into the crates, and carried them to the duty teacher at the service entrance. We had a moment to wait while she counted them in her turn, and checked us off her list. I took advantage of this to have a good look round. Opposite the door was a long, head-high construction, partly filled with coke. It backed onto the graveyard of the church. On the right was a double gate, which clearly gave into the school yard. Just outside it, facing the back of the girls' toilet, was a small gate leading into the graveyard. The duty teacher okayed our returns, and Golfball and I went back into the classroom. It was only after I had sat down that I realized we had forgotten to go and pee during the break. Just as well we hadn't drunk any milk, but if the worst came to the worst, we could always ask special permission. Even so, I thought it was not a bad idea to visit the privy alone. It would give me an opportunity to reconnoitre the toilets, which I'd not yet seen, except from the outside. I put up my hand. "Please, miss." The boys' toilet was a small red brick construction in the far top corner of the yard. The entrance was screened by a head-high wooden fence marked "Boys." There was a similar building at the bottom of the yard for the girls. Behind the wooden screen marked "Boys" was a shiny, newly tarred wall, and an overpowering smell of strong disinfectant. The wall was about the height of a grown man. I took advantage of this fine, new black canvas and the solitude to create some splendid arabesques. My decorative curves mounted higher and higher until the idea came to me to discover the maximum height I could reach. I found I could get to about 2/3 of the way to the top, roughly my height. Could anyone pee right over the top, I wondered? No, surely not. Not even a grown man could reach so high. Still, the question took hold of my imagination, and I mused upon it while using the last of my reserves to finish off with a fine mural of forest trees. Having exhausted my artistic aspirations, at least for the moment, I inspected the rest of the privy. Beyond the tarred wall to the left were 4 green doors. Behind each door was a cubicle, about 4 feet wide and as many deep. Inside each cubicle was a broad plank, 2 feet above the floor. In the centre of the plank was a round hole, about 10 inches in diameter. Under the hole was a bucket of peculiar shape, much wider at the bottom than at the top. Hanging from a string attached to the wall was a small book, the pages of which had been cut out of old newspapers. I gaped at this arrangement with astonishment. I'd never before in all my life seen anything like it, but then I had never before been in an English village. Each cubicle also harboured a stench even more overpowering than at the tarred wall. What a foulsome horror! On my return to class, Huffy looked at me suspiciously. "You were a long time," she said sharply. "Yes, miss. Sorry, miss." I tried to look innocently contrite. "I was doing the milk monitor, miss, and didn't have time to—" "Yes, yes," she said. "Next time you take turns with the other monitor while one of you stays at the milk table. That's why there are 2 monitors." She looked at me sharply over the rim of her spectacles. "Did you wash your hands in the washroom?" "Yes, miss," I replied, with a hint of reproach in my voice, as though to say that although others might neglect this elementary rule of hygiene, it would never be me. In fact, I hadn't washed my hands, but then neither had I made use of the disgusting cubicles. I didn't like lying, and tried hard to avoid doing so, but sometimes a little white lie, which did no harm to anyone, can save a lot of tedious and unnecessary explanations. "Right. Sit down then," she said. "All right, Spaulding, you can go now, and be quick about it." Golfball left the room hurriedly, bent almost double, and with a pained and anxious look on his face.